I replaced 24 college credits with just 8 exams. Those exams helped me save around $20,000 in tuition fees and helped me graduate much earlier than I otherwise would have. And the crazy part is that I'd never even heard of CLEP before moving to America. And after speaking to hundreds of international students since then, they haven't heard of it either. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I discovered CLEP, how I used it to reduce the cost and the length of my degree, and how you can check whether your university accepts it too. We'll start with how I discovered it, then I'll explain exactly what CLEP is, walk you through my experience, show you the mistakes to avoid, and finally show you how to check if this could work for your degree. Let's start at the beginning. When I first moved to America, my university predicted that my degree was going to cost me over $100,000. Very quickly, I realized that this just wasn't something that was financially realistic for me and my family. So I became obsessed with trying to find ways to reduce the cost and the length of my degree. And after hours of researching online, I found something called CLEP. Then shortly after that, I discovered Modern States, which claimed that they would pay for these exams. Honestly, at first, I was convinced this was too good to be true. So I turned around and asked my American roommate whether he'd ever heard of it before. He said that he'd actually taken a CLEP exam himself, but he paid for it out of his own pocket and he'd never heard of Modern States before. It was at that point that I started to realize that there was an entire part of the American college system that even American students didn't understand. So I decided to give it a try. But before I show you exactly what happened, let me explain what CLEP actually is. CLEP stands for College Level Examination Program. It's a program run by College Board that allows students to take an equivalent exam instead of taking the university college class. And because I used Modern States to cover the cost of my exams, these were completely free. Modern States is just a non-profit that helps students earn free college credit using CLEP exams. The idea behind CLEP is actually pretty simple. If you can demonstrate college level knowledge within a subject, whether that's because you've studied it before, taught yourself, or gained experience elsewhere, some universities are willing to give you credit without making you sit through the class again. And for international students, this becomes a huge opportunity because many of us arrive in America having already covered this content through school or other qualifications. And the exams themselves are much simpler than most people expect. They're multiple choice, they're pass or fail, they don't accept your GPA, and in most cases, you receive your results straight after completing the exam. You can take them online or you can take them at approved testing centres. Now, there are a few important things to know when it comes to CLEP exams. Not every CLEP exam is accepted everywhere, and each individual university will decide which exams they'll award credit for and what the specific passing mark for that exam will be. And that's why it's so important to check your university's policy before booking anything. Another misconception is that CLEP is only for American students or American high school students. It isn't. International students can take CLEP exams too, and there are no classes or university lectures that you have to attend beforehand. In fact, I studied for some of these exams in just a few days, and I'd never done the content before in my life. And to make things even better, I figured out that Modern States would actually pay for my CLEP exams if I completed their free preparation courses. At this point, I was really thinking, if this actually works, it would completely change my degree. So I booked my first exam. I decided to start with college mathematics, mainly because maths had always been one of my strong points and I studied maths for my A-levels. Like most people, I massively overestimated how hard the exam actually was going to be. I revised far more than I needed to and I treated it like an exam I was taking in the UK. When I finished the exam, my score came up immediately and I got 74 out of 80 and the pass mark was 50. And that was the moment I realised that these exams were much more accessible than I expected. So I thought, why don't I just keep doing this? And over the next few months, that's exactly what I did. I ended up taking 9 CLEP exams and I passed 8 of them. And this earned me 24 college credits. And because Modern States covered the exam fees and I got test centre reimbursement, they were all completely free. At the time, my university was charging $1,000 per credit for tuition. So getting these 24 credits saved me $24,000 in tuition fees. And that's before you even consider how much it would have cost me to stay another semester at college. So I avoided all the other additional fees like my flight, housing, meal plan, and other additional expenses. And some of those exams were subjects that I'd never studied before in my life. And for most of them, I revised for a few weeks or maybe even a few days. And the best part is that every time I passed an exam, a few weeks later, it would come through that I'd passed and I'd look at my degree audit and the credit would just be there. it was a magical feeling. Eventually, I was actually invited by Modern States to do a success story with them. At this point, I knew that I'd done something right and something had worked for me. And I realised that this was an opportunity that thousands of students were missing out on. But as I kept taking these exams, I realised something important. Using CLEP to graduate early wasn't quite as simple as I first thought. When I first discovered CLEP, I thought, I'll just keep taking these exams and then I'll finish my degree in 1 year. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that. First thing I learned was that every university has its own CLEP policy. So some universities accept a lot of CLEP exams and some universities accept only a few. And some universities might not accept them at all. Then I realised that each major has its own requirements. And CLEP was only available for lower level classes. And each university has its own residency requirements where you have to take a certain number of credits at their school before they'll award you your degree. So suddenly I had lots of questions. How many CLEP exams can I actually take? Which exams actually count towards my degree? Will these credits replace the college classes that I actually need? And how do I stop myself registering for a class that I've already replaced? The only way that I found these answers was speaking to my university and checking these 3 things every time. My university's CLEP policy, my university's CLEP equivalency page, and my degree audit or my degree plan. Those 3 things told me exactly which exams were worth taking and which would fit inside my degree and my major. In fact, my first university didn't actually have a cap on how many CLEP exams you could take. At one point, I genuinely thought I could finish my degree in 1 year. I didn't in the end because I ended up transferring universities, but it most certainly did affect the way that I looked at my degree and how I planned my degree in future. And that's probably the biggest lesson from this video. Passing CLEP exams is only half the process. The real value comes from knowing which exams are actually worth taking. Now, hopefully you're thinking, well, this is great, but how do I actually do it at my university? And that's good news because it's really easy to check. The first thing is to simply search your university and then CLEP policy. Most universities will have a page telling you whether they accept CLEP and what rules you need to know about it. Next, you need to look for your university's CLEP equivalency page. This shows exactly which CLEP exams they accept, the minimum score you need, and which university class each exam actually replaces. Finally, you need to open up your degree audit or your degree plan. Don't just fall into the trap of taking CLEP exams just because they're available and you get overexcited like I did. You need to take the ones that actually remove the classes from your degree. Before you book an exam, there are 5 mistakes that you need to make sure that you avoid. Number 1, don't take an exam your university doesn't accept. Number 2, don't ignore the minimum passing score. Number 3, make sure your scores are sent to the correct university. Number 4, if you're using Modern States, don't forget to claim your exam reimbursement. And most importantly, don't take exams for classes you don't actually need. Please just spend 10 minutes checking first because it could save you thousands of dollars, even tens of thousands of dollars later on. Now, we spent this whole video talking about my experience, but before we finish, I just want to talk about another example that I think every international student needs to hear because it shows perfectly why every international student needs to check this. One of my friends from university was from Belgium. He spoke Dutch, English, and he was fluent in French. When I first informed him of CLEP exams, I told him that our university accepted the French CLEP. And because he already spoke the language fluently and had gone to school in French, he didn't have to revise at all. He sat 1 exam, he obviously passed it really easily, and that earned him 9 college credits. Those were credits that otherwise he would have had to have spent thousands of dollars on. He just earned completely for free. And the crazy part is that just at my university, there were over 20 students that could have done exactly the same thing. But almost all of them never did. Some of them had never heard of CLEP, others knew about CLEP but still paid for the exams because they didn't realise that Modern States would pay for it for them. That's exactly why I wanted to make this video. If you're already fluent in another language or have a lot of knowledge in a certain subject or simply just want to work hard and earn credits, then you need to be doing CLEP exams. And you need to be checking whether your university will recognise these. Because opportunities like this are out there, you just need to know where to look. So CLEP allowed me to earn 24 credits, save $20,000 and graduate much sooner. If you want my top 5 ways that international students can save $10,000 in US college, check the description below. If you found this helpful, subscribe and make sure you let me know if you've heard of CLEP before in the comment section. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.